So you guys, I am halfway through my first week as an attending. Well, technically my second week, but the first week was kind of like an orientation buddy week thing. So it was kind of like a pseudo first week. But what are some of my thoughts about being a first week attending? Well, first of all, I'm just going to mention it right off the bat, but having that 7 days off after the first week was pretty insane. I went to a wedding, I read a book, I spent so much time with family. It was just so relaxing and so nice. So having the 7 days off was huge. But what else have I really thought about it? So the first thing I want to say is that being an attending is, I'm not going to say so much better than being a resident, but it basically is so much better than being a resident because it's so much more fun. You get to make your own decisions. You're independent. You have your own autonomy, and you can really set the pace of the day the way that you want. I can, round, in whatever order I want. I can write my notes first. I can call consults first. I don't have to wait to finish rounds before I call all the consults and everything. One of the things I've actually been doing, and I think it's just something good, is I've been getting really into walking recently, and in the middle of the day, once I've basically finished all my notes, so usually 1 or 2 p.m., I'll just go out for a walk, 10 to 20 minute walk. I'll just go walk around around the hospital and just get outside and walk as my kind of lunch break essentially. And that's that free form aspect for it. There's no way you could do that as a resident. And now it's such a relaxing thing. I come back from the walk, I'm ready to get back to whatever work I still need to finish. And it just feels so nice to just be able to do whatever I want at any time, pretty much. As a new attending, making your own decisions is also really exciting. And that kind of goes with everything I was saying before. But I know for a lot of people, and myself included, it's also very scary to be the one calling all the shots and not having anybody else to fall back on, based on your decision. But at the same time, it's really exciting, and it just feels a lot more engaged. You feel more engaged, pretty much. And I do feel a little bit more cautious, I would say. But for me, I haven't had that really scared feeling yet that, I know some people right after residency, they get kind of paralyzed right after. I think that's definitely very common, and I don't think that's wrong. But for me so far, thankfully, I've actually felt pretty confident with a lot of my decisions. But I also do recognize that at some point, I won't even probably, I will inevitably make a wrong decision at some point. And I am a little bit worried about how I will feel about that when the time comes, because I think no matter what anybody does, somebody's going to make a wrong decision at some point. And so at some point that will happen to me this year, I'm assuming. One of the things I still have been trying to optimize is my workflow. So at my institution, we actually have a pretty low cap of 13 patients. But compared to outside hospitals where, they tend to have 15 to 18 patients, or sometimes even more. I saw on Reddit, some people had 20 patients. I'm that's I don't think that's really feasible. But I do think at an academic center like UC Davis, we do tend to have a more complex patient population. And so it makes sense that the cap is lower because these are really complicated patients sometimes. And for me, approaching that 13 patients all at once actually is still different than, when you're an intern, you're carrying 8 patients or maybe 10 patients sometimes. But as a solo attending, doing everything when you have 13 patients, responding to all the pages and responding to all the, calls in the middle of the day, family wants to talk, family wants to have a meeting, and then, patient is requesting this, patient wants you to explain this, patient's lab came back, it was really bad. It's different. It's different when you have that many patients. And so you're responding to a lot of stuff. It is quite busy. And I was quite intimidated when I came in and was about to pick up the full 13 patient load. Thankfully, on my first day on, I only had 12 patients. So I think I had 11 or 12, I forget, but that actually helped a little bit. And so one of the things I've been really trying to work on is my pre-rounding process and my pre-charting workflow. The first day was definitely the busiest because you don't know any of the patients, right? And so that was definitely a huge process. But now that I know the patients a lot better, it's definitely a lot easier each day. First few days, I actually spent a lot of time just trying to optimize my note templates again. I'm really into trying to make my notes easy for other people to read and like figure out what my plan is, but also easy for me to input information and not have to like double input things or have just a bunch of excess note bloat. And so I actually ended up making a bunch of changes, and then I saw some other things and I was like, oh, I started to go back to what my original note template was. But I do think at this point, I've kind of settled onto something that I'm relatively satisfied with at this point. It'll definitely continue to be this ongoing process of trying to optimize my workflow and the note templates in the future. But one of the biggest things that I've been wondering about is pre-charting. So generally when I pre-chart on patients, I try to start my note at the very beginning of the morning, and then all the overnight events I'll type in, and then all the assessment and plan stuff, I'll basically try and, write the whole note in the morning. And the only thing I had to go fill in is the subjective. And then if there's anything that comes up when I talk to the patient, then I'll add that into the note too. So in that sense, I try to have all my notes pretty much done by the time I go round on the patients. But the problem is when you have 13 patients, it is a little bit slow, like especially that first day. I got in early that day. I got in at like 6:30 or 6:45. And then I was like writing all my notes, and I think it was like 10:15 before I even like started seeing patients, because like all the patients were new to me. I was trying to finish all my notes and have them pretty much prepped by the time I saw the patients. And so it was just like a really long time where I was like, man, I haven't like seen these patients yet. It's like really important to just like lay eyes on the patients and see them. And nowadays it's been better because I've been coming in at 7:30, which is our normal start time. And then, all my notes are already pretty much prepped for the patients that I had already. So I end up seeing the patients at a bit more reasonable time. But it does make me wonder, if writing that note and getting it all prepped beforehand is still the best strategy. That's definitely the strategy I had during residency. And it was really helpful because I would prep the whole note, on my 6 to 8 patients or however much. And then we do rounds, and then I would literally just sign the note right after rounds. I'd be done with all my notes at like 10 a.m. or 10:30 or something. But now with 13 notes, it is a little bit too much time where I'm like sitting there and I'm getting like a little antsy because I'm like, man, I really just want to like go see the patients real quick so I can make sure like everybody's okay, But one thing that I did realize is that when you're reading about all these patients, they sound like so sick when you're reading about them. And the best thing is really like laying eyes on the patient, and then you realize like, okay, now I know who this person is. Now I know what's going on. I'm not like as scared. Like sometimes they sound so bad on paper, and then you see the patient, you're like, wow, they actually look a lot better than I expected. So seeing patients early is probably something that I need to work on. Like I need to figure out if I'm still going to be doing this like whole prep my note beforehand and then see the patients, or if I'm just gonna like try and see the patients really early and then just purely work on the note afterwards. But anyways, that's something I'm like trying to figure out right now. It's still like week 1 of my like first real week of attending ship. So curious what your thoughts are. Like what's your pre-rounding workflow like? And do you like to get your notes started really early in the morning, prep them all up and get them signed right away? Or do you like to just collect all the information and then just see the patients real quick, then come back and officially start on all your notes? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you have any tips, definitely looking forward to hearing what tips you have as well. Anyways, those are my main thoughts on being an attending. It's fun. I get to set my own pace. I'm working on optimizing my workflow. And so far, making my own decisions has been just like a really fun experience as well. And the week off is also quite amazing. So it's been good so far. And a lot of people have been asking me, how's your first week going? So it's been pretty good. So thanks again for watching. I'll see you in the next video, and peace.